Hello, and you're all very welcome along to another episode of the Gaelic Statsman podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Hurley, and I'm joined this morning, by Liam White to discuss this weekend's games. There's only 3 games in the senior men's championships anyway. There's only the hurling between Limerick and Waterford, and of course the 2 provincial finals in Munster and Connacht as well. There were some under 20 games during the week. We'll discuss those also, and also the draws, which we'll discuss just in detail. First of all, just to shout out to our sponsors at Capture Athletics. If you want the best gear around, check them out if you haven't already. So yeah, Liam, it's more of a quiet weekend than previous weekends. We've had like 10 games, 15 games, 20 games. This weekend, if you don't include Camogie and LGFA in the men's anyway, there's only 3 games this weekend. Very low number, but I suppose it's a bit of respite, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Matthew. Much appreciated. Yeah, it's strange to be doing this in the morning. We're used to the evening, but it has to get done. But yeah, quite enough weekend, I suppose. Unless you are from one of those respective counties, it's a grand chance just to be able to take your foot off the gas a bit and I suppose sit back and relax and be able to enjoy some of the games in a way without I suppose too many repercussions for your own county in a way. But yeah, nope, still some very interesting games. Obviously the provincial finals, like you mentioned, Waterford Limerick, huge game in the Munster Championship this weekend, some big games in under 20 as well. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to getting into it. Should be a good one.
Should be a good show, no doubt about it. And first of all, we'll get into the week of Gaelic games, and the big story obviously is the draws. So the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship draw was made on Wednesday, and I have the image here of the full draw in detail. So the draw was, I'll take away the banner there, or the ticker at the bottom there. So the Ulster winners, that'll be either Donegal or Armagh. The Connacht runners up, Galway or Mayo, which we'll discuss in detail in a match preview there. Tyrone and Cavan, that makes up Group 1. In Group 2, you have the Munster winners, either Kerry or Clare. The Leinster runners up, Meath or Louth, and then Roscommon and Cork. In Group 3, you have the Leinster winners, Meath or Louth, Clare or Kerry. Then you have Monaghan and Down in Group 3. And then in Group 4, Galway or Mayo, Donegal or Armagh, Dublin and Derry. So I suppose, Liam, looking at this, I think Group 4 is probably the group of death. More so, I think Group 3 is probably the group of life there. But what's your overall thoughts of the group? Some interesting draws, considering like in the last few years we've had a lot of repeat pairings, but maybe the win by Meath over Dublin last week is kind of throwing the draw up with interesting ties there, especially with Group 4, Dublin and Derry in a group with an Ulster runner-up and Connacht winner. That is going to be a very interesting group.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you imagine already, say, if you were to hypothetically say Galway won the kind of final of the weekend and they're going up against either Armagh or Donegal and Dublin, which is frightening to think that one of those will be gone by essentially the preliminary rounds, which is crazy to think. Yeah, no, it's a fantastic group to look at. I'm interested to see how Group 1 affairs as well, because either way, if you have Donegal or Armagh there as well, it's going to be, along with Mayo or Galway again, it's very interesting. Tyrone as well, we fear none of those teams either. We saw how they performed against Armagh there last weekend. They were very unlucky not to come away with the win. They had a very good league campaign as well. I suppose Cavan probably be the weakest team in that. You saw how Tyrone, I suppose, in the best way possible, boringly dispatched them a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I feel Kerry will be. I saw Adam Moynihan put out a great tweet saying rival fans upset Kerry got an easy draw. Kerry fans upset they've got an easy draw, and they're both agreeing to it. But yeah, wouldn't even say an easy draw, but I suppose when you look at how Kerry, I suppose, dispatched both Meath and Louth over the last couple of years in this series, then I suppose they probably would have preferred a bit of a tougher task. Roscommon, you'd feel Kerry should have enough for. The Cork game, I'm sure Cork would love another crack at Kerry in a way after what happened there a couple of weeks ago. So, a Cork Kerry game always produces some kind of mad incident, or, it's always a crazy game over 70 minutes, or as we saw a couple of weeks ago, over 90 minutes. So that could be a very interesting group. You probably anticipate that Kerry will win Munster, so you'd probably expect Clare to go into Group 3, just hypothetically at the moment anyways. And, a group with Monaghan and Down in it, along with the winners of Leinster, which, like you said, you take Dublin on the occasion, it looks like a very tightly knit group, and one that I'd say Monaghan would probably look at and think we've got away very not very lightly here, but they'll certainly fancy their chances a lot more than say if they'd been thrown into a group with the likes of Armagh or Galway or Donegal or something like that. So yeah, no, it's a very, very interesting draw. Obviously, Group 4 would be the one that everyone looks towards. I've seen a lot of tweets, a lot of people saying over the last couple of days as well, okay, probably shouldn't be doing the draw before the provincial finals. I probably do agree with that. I think you should let the provincial finals play out first before you do make this draw. But at the same time, some people saying, oh, are you better off losing your provincial final to get yourself an easier draw? And I'm thinking, no, no, you want to win your provincial final. At the end of the day, you want to be able to look back in your career and say, oh, I won this medal, I won that medal, rather than being able to say, okay, I lost that, but we got an easier draw in the preliminary group stage. Like it's no. In my opinion, if you're in a final, you're going all out to win it. Like imagine telling an Armagh fan on Sunday afternoon, oh, you'll get an easier, say, draw if you lose the Ulster title. Like it's just no. It's that they don't want that. Or Meath or Louth. First time since 2010 that a side other than Dublin's going to win Leinster, and for Louth, first time. In was it 60 years, 70 years, to win a Leinster title. Like they want to win that. They won't care who they play after that, So yeah, no, it's an interesting enough draw. Obviously, there was going to be one eventual, essentially, group of death. I do fear for Derry that it could be a long group stage when you look at some of the teams that they could have to go up against. So, but yeah, no, really interesting draw. Actually, kind of looking forward to it a bit more now this year than I did last year. I suppose in a way, with Dublin losing, it's kind of made it a lot more interesting to a degree.
It definitely has, no doubt about it. Even look at Group 3 there, there's a big opportunity for one of even, I know Clare aren't losing the Munster final yet, we will preview it in a while, but if they expect it was to happen, they'd be in that group. Even Clare, like a Division 3 team for a few years now, they'd even expect to maybe get a few points here and there. They've down at home. When you look at it, they have to play Monaghan as well, and they also have to play the winner of Meath and Louth, which isn't a fearsome opponent as Dublin were over the last few years. So even those sorts of sides will feel that even like a top spot in terms of a quarter-final is not among the realms of possibility. And just for clarity for listeners as well, first place gets straight through to the quarterfinals, automatic qualification. Second and third place are in the preliminary quarterfinals, and then fourth place are out of the championship altogether. So it is going to be a very interesting draw, there's no doubt about it, and some very interesting ties there. But we'll see the provincial finals and see how it all plays out this weekend. Looking at the Tailteann Cup draw as well, which also happened this week on Wednesday. And unlike the All Ireland draws, we know for definitive what the teams are in this. So looking at Group 1 there, we have Kildare, Sligo, and Leitrim and Tipperary. In Group 2, you have Offaly, Laois, Wicklow, and Waterford. In Group 3, you have Westmeath, Limerick, Antrim, and London. And then Group 4, you have Fermanagh, Wexford, Carlow, and Longford. I suppose the Tailteann Cup, I do have to start with Group 2, your own county Offaly. They're up against your rivals, Laois there. Wicklow, who are no easy meet, obviously, with Oisin McConville in charge. So a decent enough draw all the same for Offaly when you look at the other groups there. Like Group 3, I think, is probably the toughest out of all. The Westmeath, Limerick, and Antrim all had decent games in the provincial series. London, especially in Ruislip, have a serious opportunity of shocking somebody. I think London actually have Westmeath at home, so that's going to be still a difficult game for them, despite the fact it's in Ruislip. But what's your thoughts on this draw?
Yeah, I suppose for me, there's no real complaints from my side anyways. I'm happy enough with how it came out. I think I was happy enough to avoid the likes of a Sligo or Limerick, just because I saw Limerick, what they did to us last year in round 2, and we were well off the pace that day. Sligo, I know we bet them in the league, but this is championship now, and you saw how much they put it up to Mayo there a couple of weeks ago. They're a very different outfit at the moment, and they started to gain momentum as the league finished. So you're thinking, right, if we were to play them again, then they'd want a point to prove as well over us. So yeah, no, with Laois, I'm happy enough. Bet them the last couple of times we've played them. Obviously, this one will be at a neutral ground, so we won't be going to O'Moore Park, we won't be going to O'Connor Park, so that'll be a bit of a challenge. Wicklow, obviously, they do have Oisin McConville, and that will, I suppose, pose its own challenge. But we are playing them at home, and we've had a decent enough record against them over the last couple of years. I know they bet us in 2018. I think the best was in 2013 as well, down in Wicklow as well. So. But I should expect us the kind of the form that we've shown this year. I should expect us to get a win there, and I should by all means we should win down in Waterford as well. I think Kildare would be relatively happy with this draw as well. Like, I mean, I'd obviously look to be devastated not to be in the Sam Maguire this year, to be devastated not to have got over the line against Louth, especially now with the opportunity that could have presented itself to them. But I think they'd have enough for Sligo. And then, I mean, if you really wanted a favourable draw, with all due respect to Leitrim or Tipperary, I'd say Kildare are delighted to have gotten those types of games. Maybe not to the degree of, say, maybe being very competitive, because you would expect Kildare to have way too much for these sorts of teams. But nonetheless, in order to get through, they should be relatively happy with that. I think Fermanagh Wexford could be a very interesting tie in Group 4, to be honest with you. Fermanagh have some very decent players in their team, and I mean, they'll be absolutely gutted not to have taken down out of the championship as well. You know, try not to say down. It's very hard to say sometimes, but yeah. I think Fermanagh will absolutely look at this Tailteann Cup and look at the group as well. You look at Carlow, the problems they've had off the field as well recently. You saw what they did against Meath, conceding. So 130 they conceded. You know, just a very rough afternoon for them that day. And I should expect them to have enough for Longford as well. I'd say Westmeath would be probably relatively happy with that side of the draw. I think at the moment, if I was to be picking my top 3 teams for it, it probably would be Kildare, Offaly, and Westmeath. I'd probably have Sligo maybe in around there amongst the ranks as well. Limerick will probably be relatively happy as well, aside from maybe Westmeath. I was watching the draw yesterday. We were in a lecture and I showed it to my Limerick friend. I showed Westmeath first and he gave me a look of, oh, great. But then I think he saw the rest of it. He's like, okay, no, that's okay. So yeah, no, I think the Tailteann Cup will be it'd be interesting to see how it develops over the next couple of weeks as well, especially with some of those games that are neutral. Like I said, London last year, I mean, you saw what they did to us in the Tailteann Cup last year. They came to our ground and I mean they destroyed us. So there's absolutely no reason why they couldn't. I wouldn't even call it a shock at this point, you know, because they've even had a decent, but by their standards or where they've been over the last couple of years, they had a very decent league campaign as well. So yeah, no, I think the Tailteann Cup has pulled up a good draw as well. And yeah, I think we're in for a good football championship. Obviously, not every game's going to be great, but I certainly think it'll be better than what some of the stuff we saw last year.
Yeah, exactly. It should be a very interesting group. But even with the Limerick fan giving you the look, but is there an argument to win the Tailteann Cup? You need to play the best teams to go ahead and win it. So yeah. Maybe but maybe Limerick just want to avoid the greater teams before going to the knockout stage. Brian Inwood commentator, love to see it. The teams who finish second will play the third place teams in the preliminary round. And the second place teams will have home advantage. Yeah, that's that was known already. Looking at another comment. Big news with Lough getting planned permission for the redevelopment of the ground should be built in 2026. Yeah, Dundalk should be a good facility for Lough. Unfortunately, for the likes of either Cork or I'm just thinking who has away advantage. They Group 3 if they win the Leinster Championship. I don't know, but those sorts of teams will think, why can't it be this year? Because I don't think any away team wants to go in the skiing again, I'll be honest. And then look at another comment. Group 3, the All-Ireland phase is wide open. Group 1 and Group 4, very competitive and difficult groups. And yeah, that's the thing as well. Group 2 is a decent enough group as well. Kerry and Cork, obviously a great rivalry, obviously. So yeah, it's probably the best All-Ireland group draw over the last few years. But yeah, that's the group draw. So we will get on to the action in the this weekend. And you look at the Connacht Senior Football Championship final, Mayo against Galway, live at RT2 at 4 o'clock on Sunday. This is on in Hastings Insurance, McHale Park in Castlebar. Does home advantage play a big role here, Liam? I know Mayo, to be fair, haven't performed to their utmost best. They haven't scored a 2-pointer yet. Themselves and Clare are the only teams in the All-Ireland series not to score a 2-pointer yet, which is an amazing stat in its own right. But then when you look at the last few games, I think Mayo have only lost 1 out of their last, 7 games, I think it is, and that's against Kerry in the league. So you could say they're decent form considering that kind of valve. But when you look at Galway, I know Shane Potts is not there, Damien Comer is not there, look at the team selection last night. Does that kind of even itself up, the fact that Mayo have home advantage and the fact that Galway are missing them 2 players?
Well, first of all, that's why you're the Gaelic Statsman. You've all the stats for us. That is an amazing stat. I didn't even know that. That's incredible. But also, I suppose one I'm not surprised by, because we spent most of the league campaign and the start of this championship campaign wondering where the 2-pointers are going to come from Mayo, bar the likes of Ryan O'Donoghue and Matthew Rowan. Who else is going to really come up with them. You know, you were thinking you wish that they did have a Killian O'Connor there, you know, because he would certainly be able to, you know, notch a couple of them anyway. So, but yeah, seeing that Shane Walsh and Damien Comer were out at first, I kind of thought, right, well, that could be massively advantage to Mayo, considering the influence that the two of them, especially Shane Walsh, has. And you saw what he did to them in the league campaign. He was just kicking 2 points for fun, you know, in McHale Park as well. But at the same time, when you do look at how Galway played against Roscommon a couple of weeks ago, you do think, you know what, this Galway team is more than a Shane Walsh. It's more than a Damien Comer. You know, when you have Matthew Tierney on form, when you have Killian McDade on form, when you have Robert Finnerty scoring points at his pleasure, Paul Conroy, John Maher, you know, when you've players like this on form, then really, yes, obviously Walsh is a very influential player, can kick off both sides, you know, has been scoring 2 points for fun this year already, and could be argued as the best footballer in the country, certainly the best left and right footed footballer in the country, probably. But I still think Galway as an all-round team are extremely, extremely strong. They have an extremely strong panel. And going to McHale Park, I don't think for them is as daunting as maybe some other teams. I think, like, I remember I was at the Mayo Galway game in 2022. I went with a friend from Mayo, and even just that day, Galway were the better side. I know, I think it came down to a point in the end, or maybe 2 points in. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I don't think Galway fear McHale Park as much as maybe you should. You know, it should be a ground where Mayo are, you know, the authority figures that they are, the dominant figures. But even seeing Derry coming down last year, knocking them out in a penalty shootout, you know, I don't think it's as big a fortress as maybe it used to be. So, especially for a Connacht final as well. I mean, Galway are going for what are they going for? Is it 3 in a row, four in a row they're going for?
4 in a row, yeah. But we're pointing out as well that Galway have only won 2 out of their last 6 championship games against Mayo. So that's a pretty bad record.
It's not a great record, but I do think they're in a much better place than Mayo at the moment. I've not been impressed with Mayo really this year. And you look at the two teams that they've played. Okay, I know I give credit to Sligo, but really you should be expecting Mayo to be a level above Sligo, you know. And especially like we said at McHale Park as well, and they only had 3 points above them. And like I said, they had no 2-pointers as well. You pinpointed the Leitrim game, and you thought, right, more so than maybe getting a win, figure out here who's going to be your 2-point kickers, and figure out a way that you can work your 2-pointers as well in a big game against Galway. Because it was the most frustrating thing that I saw at the league final in Croke Park. Just every time Mayo were on, say, the edge, or, you know, there was an opportunity for someone to take, just anyone to take a shot, no one was. It was very sideways. It was like watching Barcelona football. It was just sideways and backwards, trying to keep possession, trying to do these ticky-taka stuff, and you're just like, no, just someone take a shot, please. See, even if it goes wide, just see if you have the distance, see if you have the range. And it was kind of frustrating to watch. So, yeah, that could be a big figure. That could be a big problem for Mayo come the weekend. And I still think Galway, one of the favourites for the All-Ireland. They've lost their last 2 finals. And we'll probably feel a small bit aggrieved in a way that they didn't maybe get to the league final in a way. They probably kind of threw that away towards the end. But even without the likes of Shane Walsh or Damien Comer, I do think Galway are the strongest side in Connacht. And I did say at Saturday, I think I said Galway will win Connacht, and I've not really changed my mind on that, even with the likes of Walsh and Comer out. I think when you've got, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Matthew Tierney. I think he's a terrific footballer. He's a terrific left foot, very big, very strong. And yeah, when you have the likes of Killian McDade on form, with Robert Finn, if you can get the ball into Robert Finnerty, then I don't think the Mayo backline would be able to deal with him, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think Galway will have enough for Mayo this weekend. I think they will come out of Connacht as the winners again. I don't think it'll be in the same dramatic fashion as we saw last year. I think they might just have a couple of points to spare on them. I think the 2-pointers could be a massive duel here. So yeah, I think Galway might just come away maybe 4 or 5 points, to be honest with you.
Interesting prediction. When you look at actually Galway, you mentioned Rob Finnerty and Matthew Tierney there, and when you look at the two sides' scores overall in 2025, Mayo have real over-reliance on the likes of Ryan O'Donoghue who went Batty Moran. Like in 2025, Mayo scored top 3 scores. Ryan O'Donoghue 155, Matthew Moran 18 points. Their third highest score is Frank Irwin with 113, and he's only played 6 minutes of championship football, and they were all in the league. Like it just shows that Mayo just don't have as much fire depth as Galway do. And looking on Galway, their top scorer, Shane Walsh, obviously on top at 137. But you look at the next two scores after Walsh, Rob Finnerty 131, Matthew Tierney 516. That's the firepower that Galway have, no doubt about it. And do you think that will be the firepower that will win this game comfortably for Galway? When you look at Finnerty's form, Tierney's form, Killy McDade is coming into form now in the championship, Paul Conroy can kick 2-pointers as well. Just the range of scores for Galway, not just range of scores scoring 1, 2, 3 points. These are scores that are scoring over 10 points throughout the whole year. So this would be a very, very positive thing for Galway, I would have thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Galway's forward line is stronger than Mayo's, to be quite honest. I know, like the likes of Aidan O'Shea could catch maybe 2-3 points in a game, or certainly has anyways this year. I think he's been doing very well this year, to be honest with you, and I'm delighted to see that, though, because I think the abuse he gets, and I think the criticism he gets at times is a bit unjustified. You know, like he's very unlucky to not have won an All Ireland over his career, and he's given so much to Mayo football and to Brafey football as well. And in my opinion, he's doing very well this year. He's just a big, imposing figure. He's got a good left foot. But again, he hasn't kicked a 2-pointer this year, which could be, or he's not been a 2-point. He's not been a consistent 2-point kicker for Mayo this year. You know, so that could be a big, big issue for them. And like you said, the likes of Frank Irwin's not even starting on Sunday either, which kind of just goes to show that, again, you know, are Mayo as strong in attack as they'd hope to be? You would hope that likes of Jordan Flynn could be someone who could kick you a 2-pointer, or even Darren McHale as well, but it's just not happened yet. And you do hope maybe for their sake and for argument's sake that it does happen on the biggest stage and it does happen in a final. But there's been nothing to show so far that gives me confidence that they can, say, reduce the gap to Galway, or if it's in the dying minutes and there is 2 points in the game, or just, you know, a point in it, that if Mayo went for the jugular to try and either equal the game or to win the game, that they're going to get a 2-pointer. So, yeah, I think Galway's attack overall is better. I think it's stronger, and I think it will overpower Mayo's defence this weekend. And I don't like Galway have a strong defence, but I just think equally Mayo's attack, I don't think will be as penetrable as Galway's attack this weekend.
Probably not. And another thing to probably cement the point home that Galway are the favourites to go on and win this game. Mayo don't really score goals often. Like they scored none against Leitrim, okay, 2 against Sligo, but then it's all really ones other than the Derry game, 1 against Kerry, 1 against Donegal, and none against Kerry in the normal road of the league, 1 against Armagh, none in either the Galway game or Tyrone game of the league. Galway have kept 6 clean sheets out of 9 so far this year. Out of 9 games. That's really, really impressive. 2 clean sheets in a row against Roscommon and New York as well. Like, and when you look at Mayo as well, Frank Irwin not starting, as you mentioned there, where are the scores going to come from? Like, not even the 2-pointers, but the goals. Where are the goals going to come from in this Mayo team? Fans can say that they do well against Galway all they like in terms of records, 4 wins out of possible 6 in the championship. But when you don't have goal scorers and you don't have 2-pointer scores, where's your inspiration going to come from?
That's the thing as well, because like this is the first year where we have the 2-pointers as well, so it's not like they had that. It's not like Galway had that option even over the last couple of years as well. So I just think seeing Galway kicking the 2-pointers in the league and seeing how they performed against Roscommon, and they were miles better than Roscommon. I was slightly disappointed in how they performed, to be honest, in Pearse Stadium, but like the game, like it almost felt like a game that was essentially over by the 50th minute, and probably even before that, probably about half time, it felt like the game was done, you know, and Galway had it essentially won. So yeah, I just think Galway at the moment are, and there's a I come back to even saying it about, say, Armagh and Ulster, or I kind of wondered about Clare this year in the Munster Championship in hurling. Galway are hungry to win an All Ireland. They've lost the last 2 All Ireland finals. Okay, whatever about losing to, say, Kerry in 2022, you know, they performed excellently that day, and it was the battle between Clifford and Walsh. I feel last year they would feel that was the one that got away, because you had no Dublin in the way, you had no Kerry in the way, you had knocked out the likes of Donegal. Obviously, Armagh were coming in and looking at Galway themselves and thinking this is a big opportunity as well. But I just thought if Galway lose this, they'll be kicking themselves. They'll be really, really regretting this for a long time. And I feel now more than ever, they will be absolutely going all out to win the All Ireland this year. Like I can imagine Port Joyce is still having flash. I think he said, was it when they launched the new rules there last winter for the during the Railway Cup games, that he hadn't watched the All Ireland final back. I can imagine that over the next few months he will be watching it back. He'll be showing it to his players and saying, "This is not happening again." And I think that starts with this Sunday with trying to bring the Connacht title home.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think Galway will go on and win this quarter final as well. It should be comfortable enough. Look at stats and everything like that. It just doesn't back a Mayo shock at all, unfortunately. And I think Galway will get over the line like Liam does there. Look at the other provincial final, Kerry against Clare, out at 1:45 in Fitzgerald Stadium, Killarney, live at RT2 on Sunday. I suppose we've said that Galway were pretty much favourites to go on and win against Kerry, but when you look at this game, like it looks like Kerry will win this, more of a slam dunk than Galway will. But when you look at it as well, will the 2 pointers be kind of a leveler in terms of for Clare? But then again, Clare, like Mayo, haven't scored a 2 pointer in championship, but albeit Clare have only played one game against Tip when they probably didn't need to score 2 pointers. So what's your overall thoughts of this?
I suppose after watching what Meath did to Dublin last weekend, anything's possible, isn't it? And I mean, Cork yourselves nearly took down Kerry as well. Probably would feel you should have taken them down. So there's absolutely no reason to suggest why Clare couldn't possibly pull up a shock. And even last year's Munster final, okay, Kerry were comfortable enough, but the scoreline wouldn't suggest it. Clare absolutely put it up to Kerry last year, and Ennis was a fabulous occasion as well to have the Munster final in Ennis as well, and for them to be welcoming a side like Kerry. Factor in as well, Paudie Clifford's not going to be there this weekend, which is a massive, massive miss for Kerry. He's a real orchestrator of play, can get scores out of nothing. So, but it is in Kerry. That is the one big thing as well. They do have home advantage. And okay, Meath bet Dublin, but I just don't. Like, Clare are a good team. They absolutely are. Like, they were very unlucky not to go up to Division 2. They had some big wins at home. They have a very good home record in the championship. But like you said, the game against Tipperary, probably not a game where you essentially need that 2-pointer. I feel they had that game not kind of won beforehand, but I would have been extremely shocked if Tipperary came away with a win a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, I don't see anything but a Kerry win. I tipped Kerry to win the All Ireland this year. I think they have a point. Again, they have a massive point to prove. I think Jack O'Connor needs this last All Ireland. I don't think he'll be there next year, so I think he really, really needs to win it this year to go out, to really go out on a high. And yeah, even without the likes of Paudie Clifford, you look at the rest of the players that Kerry have. You have obviously everyone knows about David Clifford. You've the Gainies, Paul and Dylan. Sean O'Shea expect to probably come back in and start this game, get a bit of game time as well. You look at Joe O'Connor in midfield, big imposing player as well. The goal he got against Cork was absolutely exceptional. Bruno Biglioff as well. So yeah, I just think for all of Clare's talents that they have in the likes of Owen Cleary, in the likes of Emmett McMahon, I just don't see them having enough to take down Kerry. I just don't see a world in which Kerry loses Munster final, to be honest with you. Even with the shock that Meath pulled off against Dublin, I think even Kerry probably are slightly ahead of Dublin at the moment. Dublin are still in the process of rebuilding. I don't think Kerry, not that I wouldn't say they're not rebuilding, but I don't think they're in the same sort of level as Dublin at the moment. I think they're at a stage where they're thinking we need to win in All Ireland this year, and that's their main aim. So yeah, I think this probably should be comfortable enough for Kerry. I hope I'm wrong in the way and we get a competitive final, or even just somewhat what we got last year, even just from a scoring perspective. But yeah, I don't see anything but a Kerry win this weekend.
And look at the Kerry team. Sean O'Shea does start in this one. I think it's his first start since the Meath League campaign. And Mial Burns also starts in this one. Tony Brosnan starts going forward. So they are trying out maybe a brand new kind of team in terms of the half forwards. Anyway, Joe O'Connor starts in midfield, obviously. If Gavin White there as captain, Mike Breen is back in at centre back as well. So, and Thomas Sullivan's back in. He had a bulk according to Jack O'Connor after before the Cork game, which is why he didn't play. But he is back for this game as well. One aspect that Clare could actually go at in terms of trying to derail Kerry in a way is probably their kick-out. You mentioned that Paudie Clifford's out for this one. Shane Ryan's also out, obviously got the injury against Cork. Shane Murphy's in goal here. When you look at the kick-outs in the Cork and Kerry game, and obviously I was in the media box for the Cork and Kerry game, and I kind of watched it in close detail in this. Kerry struggled on their own kickouts when Cork, number one, got more pressure on them, and number two, when Shane Ryan went off. Because Shane Ryan, his distribution is absolutely brilliant when it comes to kickouts, and he gave Kerry a great out ball. But then Shane Murphy comes on, and Kerry only retained 50% of their own kickouts in the second half and extra time combined. You would think now in 2 weeks that Jack O'Connor would have built a kind of relationship between Shane Ryan and his midfield and even his half-backs to try and claim that ball in the middle of the park. So that might be something that Clare have to go after. But then at the same time, you would imagine Jack would have been, after the Cork game, into training saying, right, lads, Shane Ryan's going to be out for this game, probably with a knee injury. We have to work on this kind of communication between the new goalkeeper and the midfield. Do you think that'll be an interesting aspect this weekend?
Well, I certainly think it was something that he would have had to definitely work on, because it's especially now with the new kick-out rule, it's very, very important that you win your kick-outs nowadays. And especially when you have big imposing figures in midfield as well, you need every bit of an advantage that you can get. So yeah, no, I think it is something that he would have definitely been looking at. It's something that they can't, and especially if you're, like, with all due respect to Clare, like if you're losing your midfield battle, or if you're losing your kick-out battle against a Division 3 team, then the likes of Galway, the likes of a Dublin, the likes of a Donegal, the likes of Armagh even a Tyrone will eat you alive. Possibly even a Monaghan as well could fancy their chances against you. I remember you saying that Cork won the mid. Now, haven't said that Cork have done well in the midfield this year. I remember you referencing that they won the midfield battle against Monaghan. It's just Monaghan won the battle in attack. So I suppose there is that as well. Cork are very strong midfield this year, but at the same time, when you do look at Kerry's squad and you look at the players that they do possess, you're thinking you should be, and especially the game that Kerry plays as well, you're thinking you should be doing better in midfield, and the size of them as well. So yeah, I think it is something that Jack would have certainly been looking at, and especially after that sort of a game as well. I feel like he's the type of manager that kind of looked at it and said, right, we've won, but that wasn't acceptable. That's not good enough. And that's not going to get us further than even a quarter final or something like that. So yeah, it will be an interesting sort of battle this weekend in the midfield. I still think Kerry will come out on top, but if they can gain a bit of confidence from their kickouts, if they can gain a bit of confidence from moving the ball forward and playing the way that we know Kerry played, then they could be coming in. And especially Kerry never really kind of not coming to the championship, but they never really start showing their peak form until possibly quarter final, maybe semi-final at best. Like some of their games that they played last year in the league phase, quite simply were kind of a waste of time. Especially the Monaghan game at home. I think was the Louth game they played in Portlaoise. Just games like that. Was it Meath they played as well in Páirc Tailteann. So just games like that, they were just really just a waste of time for Kerry. So yeah, if they can get their midfield right, if they can just get their playing style right, and if they can perform just a bit better, because they started well enough against Cork the last day, and then they just started really fading out in that game as well. And obviously the Paddy Clifford red card would have had a big deal with that. But even then, they were still on the back foot a lot, and they were conceding a lot of 2-pointers as well to Cork. I know Cork have had some good two-pointer kickers this year, but they were still standing off them a lot and allowing them to just take shots from whatever angles they wanted to. So that would be something, I think, as well as the I suppose the pressing will be a massive thing that Jack O'Connor would look at this weekend, as well as the kick-off strategy.
And look at the venue as well. Look at it is in Killarney this year, not in Ennis. Does that kind of derail the shock in many ways as well, considering Kerry have home advantage? Usually when Kerry go to Killarney, they beat either Cork comfortably enough, or they just batter a team like a Tipperary, Limerick or Clare coming to Killarney on a particular day. Do you think that derails the shock, the fact that it is in Kerry's home venue?
I think it could derail a bit of an atmosphere more than anything, because, look, people will say that the old thing Kerry fans say, don't travel, but in a way, when you're kind of winning a lot of these games by cricket scores, other than obviously the Cork game, but if you're winning a lot of these games by cricket scores, then it's sort of hard to venture out money to go and watch this kind of every year. So I do wonder, do Kerry fans just see this weekend as, look, the game's on TV, we'll probably win this comfortably enough. Do we need to really go and watch us win a, what are they on now? Something in the 70s with Munster titles. It's like they're if you said to a Kerry fan by the end of the year, you'll win an All Ireland, I mean, they'll absolutely take that. But if you say to them, all you'll have is the league campaign and the Munster campaign, they won't be satisfied at all. So I do worry a small bit that maybe, especially where for a venue like Killarney as well, it's a big enough pitch as well, big enough stand around it, and big terraces as well. I just worry that there won't be a huge crowd at this game, and I just worry that could derail any sort of atmosphere. You do hope maybe there will be a travelling Clare support, but again, it's that worry of, is this a game? Okay, yes, we've seen what's happened in the championship this year. We've seen what happens in the league this year. You know, with some of the results that have gone not the way that we've expected. But is this a game where it's just going to be standard business as usual? Kerry win, and you're thinking, should we just save, essentially for supporters, save our money for more maybe important games in the round robin series, where they'll have more of a chance? So I do kind of worry about that more than anything, to be honest with you.
To be fair, there haven't been any real double-digit hammerings when you look at the provincial championship, so maybe Clare might have a hope. But then again, the fact it's on a Killarney, the fact that Kerry are clearly a better team, you would imagine Kerry will get over the line this one. Clare need to put in a performance, and I think that's something we can both agree on, but we'll see what happens this Sunday. But we're both saying a Kerry comfortable win this weekend. Just before we get on to the hurling, Brian is coming in with a comment in here about the Meath and Low game. We'll obviously discuss it in next week's podcast, but customers of a pub in County Meath will be hit with a €2 fine on the price of a pint if Joe Sheridan is mentioned between now and Sunday week's eagerly anticipated Leinster Senior Football Championship meeting between Meath and Louth. Stabbing Parnell's and Louth supporter Mary Lynch, whose family owned Lynch's Bar in Slane, they decided to take action if the name of Big Joe was uttered in the build-up to this year's Delaney Cup decider. In a Facebook post, she jokingly wrote, "For anyone calling in for banter, I've decided to put up a jar behind the bar, and every time someone mentions Joe Sheridan, it's a €2 fine. Come on, the wee county." I know we'll discuss tactics and stuff like that in next week's podcast, believe, but that is quite an interesting story leading up to the Leinster final.
I suppose when it's a Leinster final that hasn't appeared before our eyes in 15 years, you got to do something to celebrate it, don't you? And there's been a load of tickets already sold for this final. My housemate down in Limerick in college, she's a proud, loud woman, and I think she has an exam or something like that the next day, and sure as we're saying to her, Asher, exams will come and go, but a Leinster final, come on now. You'll be devastated if you miss that.
A Leinster final, which Lowe might win, by the way.
Exactly, yeah. So you'd be thinking, come on now, you got to go to that, you got to go celebrate that. You'd be devastated if you were to miss out on something like that. But yeah, look, it's a good sign of community as well, doing something like this, and I'm totally looking forward to it, to be honest with you. It's the first Leinster final in a long time that I'll actually sit down, watch, and enjoy, to be honest with you, more than anything. So that's absolutely brilliant, to be honest with you.
Looking back at clips with the Joe Sheridan, I think Joe Sheridan and Peter Fitzpatrick were actually called into RTE studios to discuss, I think during COVID time, what went on in 2010 as well, which was a very interesting discussion, no doubt about it as well. Available on YouTube, by the way. So some very interesting comments before the Meath and Louth Leinster final. Colin Urban saying Meath will beat Louth by 5 or 6 points. Again, points? Points. I think he means points. I think that's an unfortunate typo. But we'll discuss it in the next week's podcast, obviously. The Munster finals take place this weekend, as does this game in the Munster Senior Hurling Championship, Waterford against Limerick in Walsh Park on Saturday at 6 p.m, live on GA+. Going into this game, the weird thing is, if Waterford win this, after 2 rounds for every side of the Munster Senior Hurling Championship this year, Waterford would be top after 2 rounds. That's mad to think, isn't it?
Yeah, considering most of us probably predicted Waterford to finish 5th and probably with no wins or no points on the board, just given the history that they've had in this round robin series over the years. But that Clare win last weekend has absolutely it's blown everything out of proportion now. It's blown the whole championship wide open, and that's good as well. You need a competitive Waterford, and we want to see a competitive Waterford as well. They have some terrific players. Like, every time you see their forward line and you see who they have actually in their squad, you're thinking, how have these lot not done better in Munster over the last couple of years? I think Peter Creeley's done a stellar job, and he's only going to get better as time goes on. and you saw how they performed last weekend against Clare. Obviously, everyone was talking about Stephen Bennett and how he performed. It was a 2-8 he got in total, and I mean some of the points he got were just world class, Messi-esque points. Some of the flicks and some of the catches and the striking. But I think one player, by about 20 minutes into the game, I'd say Darragh Lyons was man of the match. He was sweeping. He probably I don't want to keep going back to football terms, but he was like N'Golo Kante of Chelsea. Just he was everywhere, and he was scoring. He was winning dirty ball. He was breaking through tackles, setting up scores. He was absolutely terrific. And I think if they didn't have him last weekend, him and Jamie Barron in the middle is a terrific partnership. Jamie Barron's he's actually one of my most favorite hurlers to watch. Met him on a couple of occasions as well. Lovely fella as well. Lovely, easy to chat to. But yeah, he's one of my favorite players to watch. The way he just glides through play, the way he sets up scores. It is literally like an egg and spoon the way he solves the ball. Just nobody can take it off him. Great striker of the ball, great awareness around him. And everyone knows about, obviously, Bennett, as I mentioned. So yeah, Waterford will not come into this game this weekend with any fear at all, especially after the way they dispatched Clare last weekend at home as well. And Limerick have a point to prove after that draw with Tipperary as well. Massive point to prove. I can't imagine John Kiley would have been too pleased with, well, not too pleased, but McCarthy's red card kind of sealed Tipperary's fate from the start last weekend, but I can imagine he was looking at the way Cork took Tipperary apart last weekend and thought, why didn't we do this? Why weren't we this ruthless? Why weren't we this solid defensively? We allowed John McGrath to score goals quite comfortably. We allowed Darren McCarthy to score points quite comfortably. There was a lot of standing off from them as well. But it is to Limerick at the end of the day. They still have some you look at their starting 15. I mean, I wish we had this. It's very, very strong. You've Gerard Hegarty, Tom Morrissey, Kane Lynch as a half forward line. The old guard essentially at this stage. Adam English being brought back out to midfield wearing a number 8 jersey. Kyle Hayes still at centre back as well. Dan Morrissey returning as well, which is massive for Limerick as well. Although Mike Casey is a solid fullback, I think you need Dan Morrissey in there. He is their go-to man at fullback. And yeah, Colin Cochran misses out this weekend, which is a bit of a shame. I do like him as a player. Cathal O'Neill's name's back on the bench, which is good for them. That'll be a massive boost as well with Darragh Donovan on the bench. So they are getting players back, and I suppose in a way at the right time as well. Chet, this is a huge game for the Munster Championship. You can imagine as well if Limerick were to lose this game as well, they'd be on the same amount of points as Tipperary, the same amount of points as Clare, and you think Cork will be on 3 points, Waterford will be on 4 points. It just throw the entire championship in a way into disarray, because you're thinking this is not. A lot of people will be thinking this is not how the script was meant to go. But for as good as Waterford were against Clare, I still think Limerick will probably be a level above Clare as well. Obviously, Clare last weekend were missing the likes of Tony Kelly as well. You do have to take that into consideration. They were missing Shane O'Donnell. Bar Limerick were to lose the equivalent of that, probably a Keane Lynch and maybe an Aaron Gillan at the last minute. If they were to lose a Dan Morrissey or something like that, even early on, that could be detrimental, not only just to the game, but it could be detrimental to their Munster campaign as well. But I think all going well and everyone keeps fit and they get there safely and everything like that, then I think Limerick might just shade this game. I still think they're, along with Cork, they're the two strongest sides in Munster, and I still think it will be a Limerick-Cork Munster final. I think Waterford will absolutely put it up to Limerick, and I would not be one bit surprised if this game went down to the absolute wire, went down to the last minute, and it came down between a puck between them. I think the midfield battle is going to be crucial to see who wins the more dirty ball, who's getting onto the ball more. Is Adam English going to be as influential in setting up scores as he can be? Is Jamie Barron going to be able to fall through the middle as he has the last couple of games, especially when you look at the size of the back line, the half back line that Limerick have, that Will O'Donoghue in midfield. So I just think, and after that draw with Tipperary as well, and even with the way the league campaign as well, because John Kiley was not one bit impressed with how they finished it against Wexford at home. They said there was no excuses for that defeat. I think Limerick need to bounce back at some point, and I think this is going to come this weekend.
It's going to be very interesting to see. And one name you didn't mention, that's also the bench, Seamus Flanagan, number 18 as well. Like if he comes on, That's going to
Yeah.
be a difficult assignment for Waterford. And no, it's just as a matter of interest, I look at Limerick and Waterford team on Instagram there, and I compare that team to the team that Limerick have put out in terms of the fight drive for five teams that they usually would have put out. And I could think of maybe 4 changes there. I think you look at probably Declan Hannon in instead of Mike Casey, Darrell Donovan instead of Adam English, Shane O'Brien replaced by Seamus Flanagan, and David Reedy replaced by Peter Casey. That's 4 changes. But when you look at the 4 changes that have come in, Mike Casey, Adam English, Shane O'Brien, David Reedy, they're all capable players. So this is going to be a scary Val for Waterford, no doubt about it. But then again, you look at Waterford's bench, there's a certain Austin Gleeson on that as well. So is there a potential for him to come on and try and make things interesting?
You've Austin Gleeson there, you've Michael Kiley there, who did very well last week. I believe he won the penalty as well. Gavin Fives, obviously, is there as well. Kieran Bennett, they have a very strong Conor Sheehan as well. Can never be underestimated as well for his ability. So, yeah, it's 2 very well. I wouldn't say equally. I still think Limerick's is far stronger, especially with the pedigree that they've had over the last couple of years as well. I suppose one battle I am very interested to see is Tyke Burka against Keane Lynch, whether Lynch picks him up or not. But I think if you can, I suppose, not stop the influence, because I think Tyke Burka is too good to not have an influence on the game. But if you can limit his ability, his chance to get on the ball, if you can limit his influence on the game at the back, and like he brings a real steadiness to the back line as well of Waterford. He makes a huge difference in there. If you can derail his confidence throughout the game, then, I think you'd be going a very, very long way. But like you said, yeah, it is Waterford. There is no reason for Waterford to go into this game fearing Limerick at all. There's absolutely no reason, especially the confidence. Like, they did win Division 1B. They dispatched Clare very comfortably. That's the truth be told. They were much, much the better side against Waterford. And credit to you, you called it as well. You mentioned the Waterford forward line as well. I felt that Clare should have had a response after the Cork. I thought it can't be as bad as it was in the first half against Cork again. And I mean, it was actually worse, to be honest. It was over. At least they had a decent second half against you, but against Waterford, they had a terrible 70 minutes. It was awful from start to finish. Their free taking was awful. Their decision making was poor. Obviously, people will mention the Adam Hogan situation as well, but just everything that could have gone wrong for Clare went wrong, but everything that went right for Waterford went right. So there's that, and having home advantage as well. They're different opposition. They're a much different opposition in Walsh Park than they are when they go away from home. Having said that, I do think Waterford. It's amazing. I predicted Tip to finish 3rd, but I'm starting to think, Waterford could probably beat Tipperary. They could probably go up to Thurles and take a scalp off Tipperary. There's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't. I don't think they'll take anything away from Cork. I think Cork are too strong at the moment, especially in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. But yeah, there's no reason why Waterford shouldn't be aiming to get a minimum 4, maybe 5 points come the end of this championship, and that could start this weekend if they can get a confidence boosting win or even a draw, take another point off John Kiley, then who has to play the likes of Clare and Cork in his final 2 games. Then it could make the final couple of weeks very, very interesting to watch and make it more enthralling than it already is.
Exactly. So it should be a very interesting game, no doubt about it. And it's the only hurling game on at the weekend, so everybody should go and watch it, obviously, on GA Plus. But yeah, it should be a very interesting game. But I think Limerick will have enough to win it. But imagine the scenes if Waterford managed to win this game. It'll be absolutely chronic in its own right. It'll be brilliant for the Munster Championship, and the chaos that will ensue will be absolutely brilliant in terms of that. So we'll see what happens this weekend in terms of, but we're predicting a Limerick win for that one. Look at the Under-20 Championship in the football now, and there was 4 provincial finals that happened this week. We'll go side by side, one side of the draw to the other side of the draw. So one side of the draw, the All-Ireland semi-final, we've Louth against Mayo on one side of the draw. That's because Louth beat Meath in the Leinster Under-20 final 219 to 115. Louth's first Leinster Under-20 win since 1981 in 44 years. What an achievement for Louth, obviously. And you look at the rise of Louth in terms of it, Liam. In 2022, they lost all 3 Leinster Minor Football Championship games. One of them was to Dublin, 5-14 to 1-1. 3 years later, on under 20 level, they go and win Leinster Championships. That is an absolutely incredible achievement in its own right. And according to Keevy Riley on X as well, 11 out of the starting 15 for Louth are eligible for under 20 again next year. And when you look at their seniors excelling, 3 Leinster finals in a row, Louth football's on the rise. And this is a brilliant result for them to beat Meath, who beat them in the under 20 Leinster final last year.
Yeah, and I wonder, is this a sign? Is this a scoreline that we could be repeating in a next weekend potentially? I'm sure they wouldn't mind that at all. But yeah, I'm delighted for Louth. You know, they've been on a great steady rise over the last couple of years. A lot of people say it started with the Mickey Hart revolution, I suppose. But when you do look at the work that's gone on in underage there, it's fantastic to see this finally pay off. I saw that I don't know who was it that kicked the ball out. Was it? I don't know if it was Conor McGinty or it could have been. I'm not sure. I think it was one of the wing backs, but just the moment the whistle went, he just booted it out of the ground in Gondlet's Park, and just the absolute raw of emotion. And that's what it's all about. You know, you want to have these moments. And I didn't even realize that 11 of them were eligible next year. That's crucial. That is massive for them. Like you'd be imagining maybe people within their county thinking, okay, next year's the year that we're going to try and push on and maybe try and take a scalp or win a Leinster title. And it's almost like they're a year early, maybe, you know, and they'll be certainly fancying their chances to go again and do it next year. Although, look, speak from my own experience in Offaly, it's not as easy as it's much easier said on paper than it is done in person. But nonetheless, it's brilliant for Louth. I'm absolutely delighted to see them gaining success here. Yeah, and that's a very, very good performance as well. You look at their full forward line, just seeing it here. It's scoreboard. I didn't get to watch the game, but Dara Dorian scored 2 points. Adam Gillespie scored 1-3. Tony McDonald scored 4 points. Pierce Grimes Murphy scored 1-1. So they had a good range of scores in around their forward line as well. James McGuire scored 3 points from midfield. And McDonald from wingback scored 4 points, which is crazy as well, which is absolutely fantastic. Also, although it's a lot more common, I feel like nowadays with wingbacks rushing up the field getting scores. I feel like everyone watched Jack McCaffrey in the 2010s and thought, I want to be like him. So, but yeah, no, it's a brilliant result for Louth. And like you said, 3 Leinster finals in a row at senior, winning this now. The county is looking really, really good at the moment, and I'd say and if you can cap that off with winning the Leinster title next week, then as well, then Jesus, I think you'll have to shut down Louth for a week. It'll be a massive, massive party celebration, and there'll be no reason for them to fear Mayo in the All Ireland semi-final later. Look, Mayo are a very, very solid team. I saw their game against Roscommon. They looked very, very good in that, but they also conceded 4 goals. So you're thinking to yourself, you know what? If they could take a good scalp out of Mayo, then there's absolutely no reason why they can't reach an All Ireland final and essentially complete their season in the way that they want to.
Exactly. So when you mentioned Mayo there, they beat Roscommon 2-17 to 4-8. I know Roscommon scored 4 goals, but they scored a few goals late on this one. But Mayo, like you look at the scores that they have in this team, Louth, I think are built on a very strong structure, some very good play in terms of their teamship and everything like that. When you look at Mayo, they have firepower up front. Dara Byrne scored 1-3 in this game. Tom Lydon scored 5 points. Niall Hurley's the top scorer currently in the under-20 championship for play as well. Dara Byrne, coincidentally, second on that list as well. They have firepower all across their forward line, and beating Roscommon, that's a brilliant achievement. As I said, 2-17 to 4-8. I would believe that's their first Connacht under-20 title since about 2020, 2019, around that time. So it's the boost Mayo football has needed, obviously, before the Connacht final this weekend at senior level. But when you look at the firepower that they have up front, there's no reason why they could not just that they can't beat Louth in the semi-final, but go ahead and win the whole thing.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Tom Lydon at corner forward as well. A friend of mine from Mayo has been speaking about over the last couple of years as well, saying that he's a terrific corner forward. He's one to watch for the future, and he's proven it day in, day out. At the moment, he scored 5 points against Sligo the last day as well. So yeah, he's having a terrific season. And like you said, when you have the 2 top scorers in the Connacht Championship in your full forward line as well, alongside Tom Lydon as well, then you're going to go a very, very long way. And yeah, again, congratulations to Mayo. It's a massive boost that they would have needed as well, heading into the Connacht final this weekend as well. And again, it shows that there is good work going on in Mayo as well. I believe it was the minor All Ireland semi-final they lost last year. I remember covering it for Scorpio, and okay, they were beaten comfortably enough on the day, but I still saw a lot of good signs from them that, you know, there's a couple of footballers there that will be there for the future, and could certainly, there's a good few, maybe 1 or 2 older footballers in the Mayo senior camp at the moment as well. But you're looking to be replacing them over the next couple of years because they can't last forever. So no, I think Mayo football's in a really, really good place. And credit to Roscommon, okay, they got a couple of goals towards the end, which kind of made it a bit more of a, I suppose, it's a respectable scoreline, but still going and scoring 4 goals against Mayo in a provincial final is still very, very impressive work. And I'm sure they'll take a lot from that under-20 team as well. John McGinn's got the 2 goals as well, and they were 2 very, very good goals as well. Got to give him massive credit for that. And yeah, it was a good competitive match as well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've enjoyed kind of watching the under-20 football championship over the last couple of years. I've particularly enjoyed seeing some of it this year, aside from some of the Offaly games, which I won't talk about in the under-20 football this year. It's not been the best campaign by us this year, unfortunately. But yeah, no, all across in Leinster as well. It's been fantastic, and like I said, in Connacht as well, it's been a very good championship. And yeah, I think Mayo overall, I remember covering their game against Leitrim, and okay, look, they were miles better than Leitrim, but you could just sense that there was a confidence about them. There was a good arrogance about them. There was a belief in them that we can win. So yeah, I think Mayo Loud would be a very, very interesting All-Ireland semi-final, and probably a hard one to kind of predict at the moment. Mayo probably, like I said, probably should shade it just about, just given the full 4-9, the star power that they do have in there. But after the way Loud football is going at the moment, you would not put it past them to maybe take Mayo down as well.
Exactly, should be very interesting in the semi-final there. To the other side of the draw, you have the Ulster under-20 final on Wednesday night. Tyrone beat Donegal after extra time, 119 to 214 in Owen Big. I did watch this game on TG4, and it was a boring enough game, I would say. After 60 minutes, it was 1-9 apiece. Tyrone, particularly with the players that they do have, like Owen McAlone and Conor O'Neill, they kept the ball for long periods of time, and you were thinking, where is this Tyrone team going? But they kicked 3 2-pointers in extra time through McAlone, through Shane McDermott, and through Rory McCullough. Rory McCullough scored 9 points in a brilliant performance by himself, obviously. And that kind of propelled Tyrone to go on and win this game. But then Donegal were saying, not so fast. A goal from Senan Carr kind of made this interesting. And then Donegal were a point down, but then there was a 3v3 breach in terms of the new rules, and Tyrone got a point to make it a 2-point game. But Donegal could have got a goal through Conor McCall at the very end of the game there. So it was a tight one to call. But Tyrone have the majority of the under-20 All-Ireland winners from last year. The likes of McAlone, the likes of Conor O'Neill, the likes of Liam O'Mossey in that team as well. So they have a lot of players around that team. The Conal Shee's very impressive player, Noah Grimes as well. Obviously, Rory McCullough scored 9 points the other day, 4 points from play as well. So Tyrone are an impressive team. They have some very good players. They're probably the favourites to win this competition. But Donegal, could they count themselves unlucky to lose this game, especially with scoring 2 goals that they did?
Probably could. Yeah, I was keeping up to date with this game myself. I was watching some of the other games. And like I said, it didn't sound like the best game to watch. It didn't sound like the best, most entertaining game. And it wasn't even seen here as 5-4 at half times. Given the new rules, you'd be expecting that to score after 10 minutes. Never mind by half time. But yeah, look, credit to Tyrone. They got the job done. Probably more nerve-wrackingly than they would have liked as well, especially the fact that they were going into the last 10 minutes 2 points down, which is never not a situation that they would have wanted to be in. But yeah, look, to kick the 2-pointers that they did is only a positive thing. Some of the senior football counties could take a bit of a lesson from them, that you can kick 2-pointers if you desperately need them. And yeah, look, for Donegal, it's a tough defeat to take. And yeah, again, I was covering some of their games in the under-20 championship. They were like miles better than the likes of Derry, I think, and teams like that. So I think there's still a good future for some of those players in the panel. The likes of Senan Carr, the likes of Conor McCall, a corner forward, scored 3 points. So yeah, there should be no reason why Aaron Neely as well as a cornerback that I do like to look up as well. So yeah, I don't think there's any reason why Donegal will take anything but big positives from this game. Okay, you've lost, but at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to look at under-20 and say, we're trying to build lads up, we're trying to take them to the next level, build them up into the senior panel. So yeah, I don't look, it hurts them now, but like I said, they were coming up against a very, very strong Tyrone team, which, I mean, deservedly won the All-Ireland last year. And yeah, to have gotten that close to them, I think they can take massive positive from that. And the fact that they were 2 points up at 10 minutes ago speaks volumes of their performance as well, and probably how strong the defence was going before extra time.
Exactly, and there was a very good performance of Tyrone. And Fintan O'Toole put up a tweet about Tyrone as well. Since 2019, Tyrone have now won 5 Ulster under-20 titles, 2 Ulster minors, 2 All-Ireland under-20s, an All-Ireland senior, and Oma CBS won back-to-back Hogan Cups. That the Hogan Cup is the schools competition in terms of All-Irelands. That is a brilliant achievement for Tyrone underage, and they are thriving in the last few years. There's no doubt about that. They will face Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final, repeated the under-20 final last year. Kerry beat Cork 215 to 110 in Super Valley Park. I was at this game on Monday night, and Kerry can only beat what's in front of them. Tomas O'Shea, I'd imagine, would be happy just to get over the line. The likes of Tomas Kennedy, Paddy Lane, all kicking well in this game like they should, with the likes of Mercy Bonetalk experience and things like that behind them. But to be honest, Liam, the story about this is Cork, really. They've won one under-20 championship game this year, and that was against a Clare team that weren't at the race themselves. Drawing it Tipperary, getting hammered by Louth. I know Louth went on to win Leinster, but getting hammered by Louth in their challenge game as well earlier on in the season. There's no stat going around that Cork have now lost 10 games in a row to Kerry across senior, minor, and under-20, which isn't a good record at all. The question mark, where does Cork football go from here? We'll see the minors now next week. I think the minor teams under Keith Ricken, which should be an interesting development, obviously. But when you look at this Cork under-20 team, the thing that stuck out to me was they didn't know how to, play proper football, how to kick the ball. Like, when they actually kicked the ball, they got the goal from it from Colin Clifford. Like, it took about 3 passes and ended up in the back of the net. So just the inconsistencies around Cork football at the moment, the fact that Kerry have it so easy at underage as well, it's a damning indictment, really, on Cork football that these sorts of results do happen. And I know the scoreline at the end was 215 to 110, but just at the start of the second half, I think it was about 2-9 to 3 points. Cork only scored 1-2 from play. Like, that was a poor showing in underage for Cork. I know, as I said, Kerry can only play what's in front of them, but for Cork underage football, is this something that needs to be looked at? 10 losses in a row to Kerry at all grades, not a good status.
I think it's a far outcry from the Cork team that won the Munster title in 2021, to be honest with you. It's nowhere near the standard of that now. Anyways, like, if you put those two teams, like, hypothetically up against each other now, I worry for this year's team, to be honest with you. I think it could be a hammering of real high proportions. And yeah, and even seeing here, it was 214 to 6 points as well. Like, even I had to turn this game off. It was just very poor to watch from from a Cork perspective. Kerry just had it way too easy as well. And you're thinking, especially in Páirc Uí Chaoimh as well, you're thinking for those young lads as well, it is a provincial final at the end of the day, and you're playing in a massive, massive stadium, the kind of stadium that you just dream of playing of as a kid. And there really just wasn't anything from them. Like, okay, you can only beat what's in front of you, but I can't imagine Tomas O'Shea would be reading too much into this result. He probably won't be reading too much into the Munster campaign, to be honest. He'd be eyeing up the likes of Tyrone. He'll now be eyeing up Mayo and Louth as well as the real I suppose, standard that they need to get to win an All-Ireland. And I don't know whether a game like this helps them in the context of going up against a Tyrone team, which has had as boring as the game was, a battling game against Donegal. I've had a competitive game against Donegal, and they've come out of a competitive Ulster Championship. So, yeah, I mean, it's been monitored in the media the last while, the standard of Cork football at the moment. I mean, we saw some of the performances from the senior footballers in the league. We were worried. There was worry that they could go down to Division 3, and there would have been, I suppose, early on in the league campaign, there wouldn't have been any complaints if Cork had gone down to Division 3. They got their results in the end, but I do kind of worry. You look at that compared to the hurlers at the moment, who are waving a huge high at the moment. They're bringing along players from an under-20 team that won an All-Ireland in 2023, that won the All-Irelands in 21 as well. I think Cork football at the moment is in a real tough place. And yeah, results like this do not help Kerry at all. And was that 4 in a row for Kerry as well in the Munster Championship as well, and under-20 as well. So yeah, there's just no real competitive outlook for them at the moment in the Munster Championship. It's kind of like I would say a free ticket, but for them, it's essentially at the moment, right, well, we've an All-Ireland semi-final bagged already, always to do kind of is turn up, and that's exactly what they did on Monday night. And yeah, like I said, you can only play what's in front of you, but I don't think this result would benefit Kerry in any sort of way. It'll give them a medal, but in terms of performance, in terms of trying to get up to the level that they need to take down this Tyrone team, I think Tomas O'Shea will be probably disappointed in a way that they didn't get far more competitive games.
Exactly, and it is obviously a sad indictment on the Cork football overall, and Keeprick, and hopefully their minor footballers will do well. But in terms of the 4 teams left in the under 20 championship now, it's Kerry against Tyrone, Louth against Mayo. Overall, Liam, who do you think is winning the All Ireland under 20 this year?
I would love to say the underdog and say Louth. I would love to say Louth, but like I said, they do have 11 of those players next year, so that could be a discussion for next year. I'm actually going to go for Mayo.
Yeah.
I think Mayo might actually I think Tyrone might just have enough for Kerry in the semi-final. You look at the panel they have from last year, but I actually think Mayo, with the forward line that they have and the form that they're in as well, okay, they will have to not let in goals like they did against Roscommon, especially some of the goals that they did let in were kind of ones that you would worry about from a small bit of a degree. But I just think it might be Mayo's year, and I think they've lost a couple of underage finals over the last couple of years. They've lost a lot of senior finals, as we know as well. I think just eventually something has to go for them. And yeah, I think it could be a game that could go to extra time. I think it could be a very, very tight game. Could see maybe Tyrone pulling away and then Mayo making a spirited comeback, sort of maybe similar to what Armagh did against Kerry last year in the All Ireland semi-final. And yeah, I'm gonna go for Mayo, but I think Tyrone will get past Kerry in the semi-final as well.
I actually agree. I think Tyrone, Mayo will reach the final, and I think Mayo will go on and win it. Like, their firepower up front is something to behold, obviously, with the likes of Niall Hurley and Jar Byrne there as well, and Tom Lydon, obviously. It's going to be a difficult assignment to go and beat this Mayo team, so I think Mayo will go on and win the All Ireland under 20. Just before we end the show, we'll look at the LGFA and Camogie. So we've gone to the LGFA first of all. We have 2 games this weekend. Waterford against Kerry in the Munster LGFA on Saturday at 2 p.m. I think this game is on in Waterford, but I'd have to double check where exactly. It is on in Tipperary against Cork. I think this is on a Fetter. That's on Sunday at 2 p.m. as well. So the scenario in this is Waterford and Kerry both won their opening games in this kind of group stage. So Tipperary and Cork need a win to kind of boost their Munster hopes in terms of getting to a Munster final. For Waterford and Kerry, a win for either team will probably get them into a Munster final. A win, coincidentally, for Kerry over Waterford and a win for Cork over Tipperary will set up a final showdown between Waterford and Cork in round 3 to see who gets to the Munster final against Kerry. So should be an interesting weekend. What do you see out of this game, these 2 games?
Yeah, I think Waterford Kerry is the real standout fixture, to be honest with you, more than any of them. Look, Kerry are All Ireland champions, and they've had a very good season so far. They were fairly comfortable enough. By the looks of it, against Cork last weekend, they were leading fairly comfortably at half time. Obviously, Cork brought the scoreline back to be somewhat respectable in the end. But I just think Kerry are very, very strong in Munster at the moment as well. You look at the likes of Siobhan O'Shea, you look at Danielle O'Leary, they're in real, real good form at the moment for Kerry. So yeah, I think Waterford can absolutely put it up to them. I just don't think they're as strong as Kerry at the moment. I think they're a very good team. There's no question. There's no doubt about that. When you have the likes of Kellyanne Hogan, when you have the likes of Laura McGregor there, you obviously have got a chance. And the game is in Dungarvan, which is a massive benefit for Waterford as well. But I think Kerry are still the strongest ladies football team in the country, probably alongside the likes of Armagh and probably Dublin still maybe. So I think Kerry should progress to the Munster final quite comfortably. For Tipperary and Cork, Tipperary, look, the scoreline doesn't look too bad last weekend against Waterford. They only lost by 5 points in the end. For Cork, they put up a good second half showing against Kerry, but the damage was essentially done in the first half. So you're hoping that doesn't maybe affect them as much as as it could. I think with Tipperary having the Tipperary home advantage as well, that could be a massive benefit to them as well. I'm actually going to go for a Cork win. I think Cork might just get over the line this one. I think it'll be a very competitive outing, but yeah, I think Cork will set up a showdown with Waterford in the final round. But I do think Waterford will get over Cork in the final round as well. I think it'll be a Waterford Kerry Munster final.
Yeah, I probably agree at this present moment in time as well. I think Cork will beat Tipperary in Fethard. Tipperary, Cork met in Fethard in Division 2, and Cork won that game quite comfortably as well. So I feel like Cork will get over the line there, and Waterford Kerry should be a tie one, but I think Kerry will get over the line. Dungarvan. I do agree. I think Waterford and Kerry will reach the Munster final when all said and done. Looking at the Connacht LGFA Championship, Leitrim against Galway in Park Sean McDermott in Carrick-on-Shannon on Saturday at 6 p.m. Now, Leitrim and Mayo played in the first round of this, and Mayo only beat Leitrim 2-11 to 111. Leitrim only lost by a goal, and they were a Division 4 team, so maybe they can compete with the senior side. But then again, saying that, Mayo only won, I think, their second game last weekend against Leitrim. They only won one game before that. That wasn't really much of a test, if you know what I mean, in terms of senior level. This Galway team have won 8 games out of 8 in the league. They are absolutely flying at the moment. You look at the Kilkerran girls in this team as well. The likes of Olivia Divley, Nicola Ward, Roisin Leonard, they are in flying form at the moment. You would expect the Galway win. But do you think Leitrim could put up a test to Galway in any shape or form?
I certainly think they can put it up to them. I mean, when I first saw the score last weekend, I thought it said 2-11 each, and I was like, geez, that's a great result for Leitrim. But then I read that they had only one goal, and I was like, shame. But yeah, no, I think, look, Galway are extremely strong. There's no point saying otherwise. You know, there's a reason why they went so far last year in the All Ireland series. There's a reason why they took down Dublin in Parnell Park as well. It was one of the best games I've seen in a long time last year. But yeah, I don't see them having too many issues with Leitrim to a degree. It's very hard for Leitrim as a Division 4 team sometimes when you put kind of your heart and soul into one game to then go and do it again a week later, especially against an opposition that is a level above as well. Like, look, Galway are Division 2 champions as well, and like you said, when you do look at some of the players that they still possess in their team as well, I would sort of worry for Leitrim. I don't think there's a Leitrim back that can deal with the likes of Roisin Leonard. I think when she's on form, she can tear apart any defence really in the country, to be honest, even on their best days. Olivia Devilly as well is very, very strong player as well. So yeah, I think Galway should have enough for Leitrim this weekend. I think it's very hard to get your performance level up again after putting in such a huge effort in one game. So I think Galway realistically, given the form that they have shown this year, I think they should have enough for Leitrim.
Yeah, I think Galway will win that game as well. It should be a Galway Mayo Connacht final, like it always is each and every year. The final game in LGFA this weekend, Kildare against Meath in St. Conduit's Park in Newbridge, and Sunday at 2 p.m. So the winners of this will play Dublin in the Leinster final in Croke Park. That's a doubleheader, obviously, with the Louth and Meath men's final as well. So a great occasion, obviously, for one of these sides to get to. Like Kildare did well enough in the league. Meath did well at the start of the year, but form kind of dipped, strange enough, because they have Vicky Wall back, they have Emma Duggan back in this team as well, they have the big hitters back. Kildare, obviously without Grace Clifford, but they do have the likes of Roisin Byrne, Ruth Sargent, Leisha Lenihan. Like, they do have some decent players. Like, Kildare are on an upward trajectory over the last few months. They did well in Division 1, they stayed up in Division 1 as well. This is going to be a tight game to call. Who do you see winning this?
Yeah, and I suppose Kildare will want to improve on the result that they had last weekend against Dublin. I mean, they were going fierce well against them. They were only 4 points down at half-time as well. And even seeing last weekend as well, Lana Prizeman had a very, very good showing as well, particularly in the first half. But like I said, they leaked goals. They kind of fell apart, especially at the start of the second half. I think, like, getting a half-time to score 2-5 to 1-4 by the 42nd minute, it's 3-10 to 1-4. The game's essentially done, so they'll have to try and not concede as many goals as they did that day and try and improve from that aspect. But I do think Meath, for me, are still a very, very strong outfit. I think Dublin will probably win the Leinster Championship overall, but I think Meath should have enough for Kildare this weekend to see the game over the line. Yeah,
I'm going to go for Kildare to win this game. It should be an interesting game, no doubt about it, between two equally matched sides, but it is going to be a great occasion for one of those sides to get to. There's only 2 Camogie games this weekend, and we'll put them all together because it's the Leinster Camogie semi-finals. We've Dublin against Kilkenny on Sunday at 3:30, and St. Pellegrins GA Club on Sunday at 3:30 p.m. and Wexford against Liam's old County Offaly on Sunday as well at 2 p.m. This game is in Chadwick's Wexford Park in Wexford. Look, these are two interesting games in its own right. Starting off with Dublin and Kilkenny. Dublin knocked Kilkenny out of the All-Ireland Championship last year in the quarterfinals. I know Kilkenny beat Dublin in the league this year with some very good performances, especially from Laura Murphy, who scored 2-8 in that particular game. But it seems like this Kilkenny team are under a bit of transition. Dublin have more of a settled team, if that makes sense. Like, you know what you're going to get. You have Ashley Barry, you have Ashley O'Neill, you have Emma Byrne, you have the Gannons. You have some excellent players in that Dublin team, whereas Kilkenny are bringing in a lot of new players, a lot of retirements over the last few years. The likes of Grace Walsh, Miriam Walsh, Denise Gall, they're not around this Kilkenny team. You bring in the likes of, I don't know, is Aoife Prendergast going to be fit for this game? Obviously, Laura Murphy, as I mentioned. Then you have Wexford against Offaly. Wexford, our senior team, Offaly, obviously Offaly are an intermediate team, but you look at Offaly's winning the Division 2A final, the likes of Grace Tian and Mairead Tian provided brilliant performances, especially against Derry in the final. Sharon Shanahan has done really well in midfield for Offaly as well. Wexford has some decent players like the likes of Chloe Fox in that team, and they are a senior team, so it will be a difficult game for Offaly. But where do you see these two games going in the Leinster Camogie semi-finals?
I suppose seeing the Kilkenny result against Dublin kind of surprised me, because I remember watching the Dublin-Kilkenny game last year, and it kind of felt like the end of an era for Kilkenny in a way when they got beaten in Croke Park. Dublin were full value for that win as well. Probably wish they didn't turn up for the semi-final in a way, given how that turned out in a way, to be honest with you. But obviously still it was great for them to get that far and to knock out a big powerhouse in Kilkenny, who, like you said, they are in transition at the moment. But yeah, they went away to Dublin and they put up a huge performance. Like I said, Laura Murphy was on fire that day. Dublin probably would have been very disappointed with how they performed that day. So, look, it's very hard to beat the same team twice in 1 year, especially twice in a matter of weeks as well. I think Dublin might just have enough this weekend. This could come back and bite me in the, you know what, to be honest with you. But I think Dublin, I just think Dublin, like I said, they're more of a settled team at the moment, like you said, with the Gannons, with Emma Moore, and with Heffernan, Aoife Heffernan as well. There's some very, very strong players in their squad. So I think Dublin should have enough. For us, yeah, like you said, the league final win against Derry was superb. Like I said, the Teahins were fantastic on the day. Sharon Shanahan was excellent on the day. She was a part of the Ashburn Cup team as well, which won with the University of Limerick recently, as well, and has been performing excellently for Offaly over the last couple of years as well. So yeah, but I suppose this is, like I said, this is a level up for Offaly against a very, very good Wexford side. I feel like it might just be a step too far for us at the moment, but we are building a good young, hungry team, which is a good sign. Like David Sullivan's done a great job with them over the last while as well. You know, he's a terrific manager, and he seems to have great belief from the players in the panel as well. And it would be great if they could get over the line against Wexford, but I just think it might be a game that might come too soon for them. So I think it will be a Dublin Wexford final.
Yeah, I probably agree as well. Hopefully Offaly can provide the shock this weekend against Wexford, because that team looked very, very good against Derry. But then again, you look at Camogie teams in the past, if they win the lower level tiers, then they struggle a bit. Like you look at Westmeath, for example, they can't even get out of intermediate level at the moment, despite beating Derry in the final last year. They're gone straight back down to Division 2, which is obviously a detriment to them. Hopefully it won't happen to Offaly now, but if they can beat Wexford this weekend, it will give them a lot of confidence. And you look at the Kilkenny-Dublin game, I think Dublin will win that game, and I agree with you, it will be a Dublin and Wexford final. But if it is a Dublin-Wexford final, it should be interesting, considering it's been always Kilkenny over the last few years, and Leinster maybe a bit of change of the guard there, but we'll have to see about the Camogie this weekend. But that is all the games wrapped up, all the news wrapped up as well. So and that is about 1 hour and 20 minutes in the books. We're going to go and have a lie down. But don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good stuff as well. Ring the bell for any notifications in terms of live streams and stuff like that. Thanks to Liam for coming on to the show today. Thanks to Captured Legs for sponsoring today's show once again. And until next week, we'll see you then. Enjoy the games at the weekend and take care.